Welcome back. Russian President Vladimir Putin says Moscow is ready to use nuclear weapons if there is a threat to the existence of the Russian state. He was saying this in an interview with state media. President Putin said from a military and technical point of view, Russia is ready for a nuclear war, insisting that Moscow's nuclear arsenal and troops hold the advantage over the West, adding that the United States is also developing nuclear forces, but that does not mean that they are ready to launch a nuclear war tomorrow. President Vladimir Putin warned that if U.S. troops were deployed to Ukraine, Russia would treat them as interventionists. Last month, the Russian president claimed during an annual address to the nation of a real risk of nuclear war if Western countries send troops to fight in Ukraine. Last year, he deployed tactical nuclear weapons to neighboring ally Belarus, and former Russian President Deputy Chairman of the Security Council, Dmitry Medvedev, said strategic nuclear weapons could be used to defend territories incorporated into Russia from Ukraine. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian government and education cannot wait because it's announced an $18 million in catalytic grant funding for a new multi-year resilience program that will benefit over 150,000 children across 10 of the country's most impacted areas. This new grant by the Ukraine and Education Cannot Wait group is in collaboration with other key partners in Ukraine. It seeks to mobilize additional $17 million in funding for the country.
Today, we are launching a program that totals $35 million. And at Education Cannot Wait, we use our pooled funding mechanism and put in $18 million to entice and kickstart and attract more contributors to fill the entire funding gap. It will ensure that all the teachers and children in the East and the South region have access to mental health and psychosocial services, renovating damaged or destroyed schools so that the children can return safely. There are about 4,500 schools that are either damaged or destroyed. Expand access, and this is so very important. It's not the only solution, but it's an important solution to digital education for children who are not able to attend the school physically, and also to invest in their teachers. Without teachers, there is no education.
Also coming for Ukraine is $300 million worth of weapons and equipment from the United States. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan says a package will contain a large tranche of artillery rounds as well as munitions for M142 HIMARS multiple rocket launcher systems, among others.
Russian troops advance and its guns fire. Ukraine does not have enough ammunition to fire back. That's costing terrain, it's costing lives, and it's costing us, the United States and the NATO alliance, strategically. So today, on behalf of President Biden, I'm announcing an emergency package of security assistance of $300 million worth of weapons and equipment to address some of Ukraine's pressing needs. This is possible because of unanticipated cost savings in contracts that DoD negotiated to replace equipment we've already sent to Ukraine through previous drawdowns. This emergency package that we're announcing contains a large tranche of artillery rounds and gimlers for the HIMARS. It is assistance that Ukraine desperately needs to hold the line against Russian attacks and to push back against the continuing Russian onslaught in the east and in other parts of Ukraine. This ammunition will keep Ukraine's guns firing for a period, but only a short period. It is nowhere near enough to meet Ukraine's battlefield needs, and it will not prevent Ukraine from running out of ammunition in the weeks to come. We cannot provide ongoing assistance to Ukraine without significantly impacting our military readiness, absent congressional action. That remains the case despite this modest amount of cost savings that we are putting to use on an urgent basis. Congress must act. The House of Representatives must pass the bipartisan national security supplemental as soon as possible.
We have the VOA's Carla Bob joining us now. Carla, thank you so much for joining us on the program. Has a military donation by the United States already gone through the House and the Senate?
Yes, this is actually still funds that the House and Senate passed in December 2022. This is 15 months ago. That was the last time that U.S. aid was passed by the House and Senate. And I guess the best way to think about this is imagine that your family received a bucket of money and you dealt all the money out and gave it to people to go spend on certain things. And then one person goes and goes to get groceries and they left with $5 and they come back with $4 because it didn't cost as much as they thought they would. Well, that happened over and over. And so what the Army did and what the Pentagon did is they took that savings of $300 million, and they put that together in this new package, because up until this point this year, we have not seen an aid package because the money bucket that you had, it was empty. But as these contracts came in and as they saw savings after savings in a few of these contracts, they were able to cobble together this new aid package.
So this isn't particularly a new package. It simply is, what was left over from the others. Now, this is one of the complaints from lawmakers, the U.S. government making these donations after following due process. So did the president's SOTU speech perhaps have any impact on these naysayers who finally agreed to this?
Well, the State of the Union speech, it's still yet to be seen if that had any impact on the situation in the House. A lot of people had said that calling Ukraine out, people who supported Ukraine would say that the State of the Union speech, starting with Ukraine's dire need for assistance, was a bold move to try to get Congress to act, because those people who support this say that the majority in the House and the Senate do approve supporting Ukraine, that there is a leadership in the House of Representatives, a Republican leadership, that doesn't want to bring this to a vote. On the other side, you have that leadership and some others saying that it was a bad move to put Ukraine at the top of the State of the Union because it's the State of the Union, the United States, and they wanted to hear about domestic policy first. So it's yet to be determined whether or not President Biden was able to make a difference. But I was just talking to members of the Hill a few days ago, and they are still pushing for this to come to a vote because, as Sullivan just said, as we just heard, that it is a dire circumstance. People are dying every day. They need that aid. And at this point, the only way to get more aid to Ukraine, now that that bucket is empty again, is for Congress to pass funding for it.
Yes, and knowing that, the military aid could still run out in the next few weeks, according to Sullivan, how soon will this money get to Ukraine? Because the Ukrainian government had said just a few weeks ago that most of the money's promised, most of the military aid promised, probably won't arrive in a few months.
Well, that's a great question. We actually asked that to Pentagon officials just yesterday when this package was announced. They would not give us a specific date on how soon this aid could get to Ukraine. But if it is anything as these things have gone in the past, they have aid ready to roll out in a matter of days.
Okay. Does the U.S. still keep tabs on how much has been donated to Ukraine so far and the impact of these military aid?
Well, they say that all of the aid that's been donated from the United States, not just the United States, let's forget that the United States is just one of the many partners that have been donating to Ukraine. Europe has donated about as much as the United States has donated. In fact, in terms of GDP, there are several nations that have donated more GDP-wise than the United States has. But they have been coordinating this aid to strategically get the right supplies to the right points of the battlefield, and to also make sure that the Ukrainians know how to use them. That's why Ukrainians have been training in Germany with U.S. forces, Norwegian forces, German forces, to make sure they know how to use this weapon, these different weapons that are coming to them. And we will see in the coming days, there's another Ukraine Defense Contact Group just next week they're planning to have, where they will further take a look at the aid that's been donated and what's needed next.
And in every few weeks or months, we see President Volodymyr Zelensky appealing for this aid from partners, from international partners, especially those members of NATO. So will there be more military donations from the United States this year?
Well, at this point, the United States, the Pentagon says there is no more money to send to Ukraine that they're willing to risk. There is technically, now this is a technicality, I don't want to get too into the weeds here. Technically, there is $4 billion left that the United States military can provide to the Ukrainian forces. However, the pot to replenish those funds and to build up and to replace that weapon in the U.S. military, that pot has ran out because it costs more to get new equipment to come into the U.S. military than it does to send it to Ukraine, to send old stuff to Ukraine. And so what the Pentagon has said here is they are at a point, they are in the hole $10 billion. That's what they need to replenish all the weapons that they've sent to Ukraine. They are in the hole that much. They cannot dig that hole deeper until Congress passes additional funds. So right now, it's completely up to Congress whether or not more aid will be sent to Ukraine.
Well, everyone really feeling the impacts of this Russian invasion of Ukraine, not just Ukraine, but also international partners. Carter, thanks again.
You're welcome.